Good afternoon. My name is Ces Butner, and I have the honor to serve as this year's president of Rotary Club of Oakland. Founded in 1908, the Rotary Club of Oakland is the third oldest Rotary Club of some 35,000 Rotary clubs throughout the world. We are a community of 300 men and women from all walks of Oakland civic, commercial, and community life, committed to Rotary motto of service above self. I'd like to welcome you to our 5,330th club meeting. For over 111 years, we have welcomed Rotarians and guests from around the world to our club meetings. We have continued to do so virtually. So if you're a visiting Rotarian, or if you're a guest of a Rotarian, please let us know by typing your name and the name of your club into the chat box located at the center bottom of your screen, as indicated by the red arrow on the slide you're viewing now. By doing so, we will be able to recognize you later in this meeting. Also, we recommend that all participants view this Zoom meeting by clicking the speaker view button located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And if you have comments throughout the meeting or questions for the speaker, please use the chat button at the bottom of the screen for that as well. And now for our thought for the day, Rotarian Kymberly Miller.
Thank you, President Says. Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm doing the thought for today, and it's International Women's Day coming up on March 8th, and in honor of that, I have a poem, words of wisdom from one of my favorite people in honor of this day, Amanda Gorman. She's one of my new favorites. And it's excerpted from her poem, Oh, Won't You Be My Sister, in 2018. Hear me as a woman. Have me as your sister. On purpled battlefield breaking day, so I might say our victory is just beginning. See me as change. Say I am a movement, that I am the year and I am the era of the woman. Thank you very much. That is the thought for the day.
Thank you, Kymberly, for setting the tone for the meeting with that reflective thought. Because we want to remain grounded and focused, we begin our meetings by jointly reciting our vision, which is, together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. I hope you enjoyed last week's meeting where we had speech contest chairs Barbara Beery and Alex Kafka present our entries into the District 5170 Richard D. King Youth Speech Contest. It was inspiring. And Alex hopefully can keep us informed of how a winner comes out in the future rounds of the contest, which culminate, I believe, April the 24th in the finals of the speech contest for the district this year. This week, we begin March. It's a Women's History Month and International Women's Day, as Kymberly mentioned, on March the 8th. A little later, we will commemorate this occasion as I have a trio of women announcing various aspects of our club. Also, I wanted to report that the board at last week's board meeting fulfilled my request to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, reaffirming our commitment to further our understanding and participation in DEI efforts throughout the club, committee chairs, and members. I'm excited about it and will be naming the chair or co-chairs soon. If you want to be kept in the loop on the formation and eventual recruitment for this committee, please reply in the chat or email Jesse or me for additional information. Finally, I'll remind you once again of my challenge to all to help me reach my goal of gaining 35 new members in the second half of the year. Bring a new member in. Many of you have stepped up already, but I just want to encourage you to bring in a new member and share the Rotary's service above self does for all of us. Now it's time to sit back and enjoy another in our great Civic Thursday meetings where you can catch a great speaker and get involved with Rotary where service above self exists. Past District Governor Ed Jelen. Do we have any
Yo,
Rotarians, I guess?
yes, we do, President Ces. Happy to have with us a visiting Rotarian from the Rotary Club of San Leandro. So please welcome Diane Dorn. She's visited with us before, and we're very happy to have her back again. And let's see if there's anyone else out there. Oh yeah, CJ Hirschfeld has brought a guest with her today, Lois Corin. So welcome, Lois. Lois, thank you for joining us. And that's it for today, President Ces.
Thank you, Ed, and welcome all guests. And Lois, I think you're going to have to join if you keep coming as guests. So we'll get you in here. Before we get started at this week's meeting, we have President-elect Dudley Thompson has an announcement for us.
Thank you, President Ces. Couple things. One is this afternoon, you'll be receiving a survey. We did a short survey last week regarding the environment, but the strategic planning team has been interviewing members of the club. We interviewed about 25 people in person, but as following up Peter Sherris's surveys the last couple of years, there are a few questions we'd like to ask. It's a short survey. We'd like to have it back by Monday. One of the questions will be some self-identification questions. We'll be asking, and it's optional, but we'd ask you to identify your gender, your sexual orientation, your race, and your ethnic diversity identity. These are self-identification. One of the issues we have is we only ask gender and age when you join the club. And for us to look at how diverse we are, more or less, we need to know. We can only guess people, and we don't want to do that. One of the things I would say is clearly we're always put in the space of old white men club, but I will say, at least at this occasion, that the goal of Rotary is to have 30% women, and our club has 43.5% women. So we're not at 50-50, but at least we're getting there. Let's put it that way. So in terms of the survey, please do it and send it back. The second thing, hopefully quickly, is people with the vaccine want to get back together. And I'd like to, and if you remember a year ago today, this meeting was the last time we met together. We met at the Lake Merritt, with the Lake Merritt Breakfast Club, and we had the speech, or the second round of the speech contest. We haven't ignored this. In September, we put together an in-person meeting committee. We developed a club policy that was taken to the board of directors in October and November. And there's several features of it about how we can deal with outdoor activities or indoor activities. One crucial thing is that we decided we will follow Alameda County directives, health directives, the guidelines. And certainly since November, we've been in the purple space. And as of today, as of this morning, we're still in the purple space. We'll be meeting more to discuss this. London Breed yesterday morning said when they opened up the Ferris wheel that get on the Ferris wheel because the COVID police will be coming around. I am the COVID police. We had to ask the High Adventure Committee to delay some of their things. We are planning things on the calendar, but we'll follow Alameda County guidelines. Thank you, Ces.
Thank you, President-elect Dudley. That's interesting information, and we must get that survey information in to further our work that we're going to do with the DEI committee. And speaking of that, this Women's Month, and Kymberly mentioned the International Women's Day. We got Women's History Month. I would like to have Kymberly say a little something about International Women's Day. Rotarian Kymberly Miller.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. Thank you very much. I'd love to say a little bit about International Women's Day. And mine will be a little bit of a history lesson for us all.
Mhm.
March 8th is International Women's Day, kicking off National Women's Month here in the States. Of course, many of you must know it's a global celebration of social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. But I don't know if many of you know how the history and the birth of this celebration. So I'm just going to, in short, take you through a little bit of it. In short, 113 years ago, in 1908, women in New York City marched, demanding better pay, hours of work, and the right to vote. Born of that advocacy, in 1909 was the first National Women's Day, and it was observed. By 1911, the movement of gender equality became connected globally. So the word was getting out from women to women, and saw the first International Women's Day. So that's really exciting, right? And at first, it seems like, wow, that's rapid growth from 1908 to 1911 of a real needed movement. And the ability to recognize and bring awareness to the plight of being female in a male-dominated world. Well, it is rapid growth, but I'm going to bring a little critique to that timeline. It wasn't until 1975 that the United Nations officially observed National Women's Day, clearly beginning to understand the impact of the struggles of women across the globe. If you can believe it, Women's Day, International Women's Day, and the movement to begin to create gender equality for half the population of the world, I'll say, really started to flag in the 2000s. So you could see in the early 1900s through the suffrage movement, through feminism, the beginning of feminism, it really skyrocketed, and then it took a pitch in the 2000s, as did feminism. So International Women's Day wasn't observed as much. But under the leadership, by 2011, under the leadership of then President Obama and Secretary Clinton, that is when National Women's History Month was established and had a big revival on really celebrating women and their achievements and their plights in a male-dominated world. Each year, there is a theme for International Women's Day, and this year it's #ChooseToChallenge. Quote, "A challenged world is an alert world. Individually, we're all responsible for our actions each and every day, all day." I dare say this is a call to action to all of you, all of us, for each of us to step out and call out inequality and injustice that happens every day in front of us. Equally, we can also choose to lift up the women in our lives, not just by observing them and saying good job, but celebrating them, showcasing them, and investing in them, in their achievements, and making a difference by thinking globally, but acting locally, right here with your friends, your family, and your neighbors. I challenge you all to choose this International Women's Day and National Women's History Month. And ensure, by doing so, you will ensure the future of girls and women is a future that is safe and equal and rewarding. Thank you, President Ces, for letting me share.
Thank you, Kimberly. That's really sets the tone for us for this month's work, I'll say. Now it's become Women's History Month as well. Next, I will have my trio of women, as I said, presenting different aspects, is Shannon Hackley, Rotarian Shannon Hackley. I believe you have a message for us.
I do have a message. Hello, everybody.
Mhm.
Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to visit with you for a special 3 minutes about membership. Now stop. I'm not going to lecture you about bringing in new members. I'm going to hopefully inspire you to change the world. You know, you can bring in a load of new members for many reasons: to please President Ces, to network for business, to reach our membership growth goals. But imagine if your efforts to conduct Rotary work were multiplied. Imagine if some project in the world was created and implemented by someone other than you. Imagine if by simply asking, "Have you heard about the work of Rotary International?" that you gave someone the platform to achieve their life's work. Well, this happened to me. I have a friend of mine that was near retirement, about 50, super smart lady. She actually took over chairing my tuberous sclerosis walkathon for 3 years, the first year raising $100,000. And so I already knew about her generosity for a cause that she didn't even affect her. It was my son, but it was a gift to me. Then I invited her on a Rotary trip, just for fun, not for recruitment. I invited her to join Carl Stuckey and a team of Oakland Rotarians to a Uniendo America trip in Antigua in 2004, which included distributing wheelchairs during the conference. Can I see slide 1, please? So here's a picture of Joanne Hilton. Joanne gave away wheelchairs with me and team, and the trip not only changed her life, but it literally changed the lives of thousands of people. She joined our Oakland Rotary Club. Can I see slide 2? And she had some fun with us. This was back when we were having some fun at Oakland Rotary. And then she and her husband, sadly, but happy for Lincoln, California, transferred to Lincoln. And then she started a new chapter in her life, which is the gift that I gave to Rotary in the world. Joanne has now been a Rotarian for over 15 years, and she's not only been the president of her club, district chair of numerous committees, she's raised thousands and thousands of dollars, inspired hundreds and hundreds of Rotarians, and she has truly changed the world. Slide 3, please. Joanne was awarded District Rotarian of the Year last year, and I wanted to read just a couple of her accomplishments. Slide 4, please. She was not only president of her club, district chair of Interact for years, district grant chair for years, district youth services chair, RILA chair for 6 years, Paul Harris fellow. I'm not asking you to read this, I'm just giving you a highlight. And created district human sex trafficking committee, and the list goes on. You can take that slide down, thanks. So hopefully I'm sharing a story that gives you a thought. Whose life can you activate and give a platform like Rotary to help change the world? Steve Hansen from the Port of Oakland sponsored me into Rotary in 1987. My life not only changed for me forever, but Steve gave me the gift of membership and I paid it forward to Joanne. So there you go. Go inspire membership and change the world.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I couldn't have said it better myself. That is what we're looking for all the time. That is what I say when I say we got to show people, members, potential members, what the gift of joining Rotary does for the service above self. I really like that story. Next, we'll have the third in my trio of women is Tristan Connor. It's going to give us an announcement from Cerrone and Lena, I believe.
All right, can you hear me, President Ces?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much. So I'm happy to talk to you guys today about the Cerrone Lena Scholarships Committee. And quite honestly, it's been the most rewarding work I've done to date. Jack, if you have the slides, that'd be great to bring up. So what we do is we focus on students who've demonstrated academic excellence and who are also in financial need. And over the years, we've awarded well over $1 million to local youth. And it's more than just giving them a scholarship and saying good luck. It's a direct pairing between mentors and scholars. And so I was lucky enough to get a call from Pat Williams last summer, and she remembered that I was an engineer and asked if I wanted to mentor a young lady who's just embarking on her computer science degree. And of course I said yes. And Pat was wise enough to see a lot of parallels there. You know, I could relate to her experience, to her struggles. And unfortunately, she did have some struggles in that first semester. It came to a point near the end of it where she wasn't even sure if she could push through, how she could push through. And I'm really grateful that she was comfortable in sharing that with me. And so we talked through different options, and I'm really, really happy to report that she's back on track. She's doing well. Life is good for her. And you wouldn't believe how invested you become in these young people. You know, within a matter of 8 months, I haven't even met her in person because of COVID. It's pretty sad. But I'm looking forward to meeting her, and I'm so invested in her success and growth. And I'll tell you, being a part of this committee gives back more than you put in. It's only a couple hours a month and you can really change a life. And so if you head to the next slide, Jack, that'd be great. And so sometimes, like I mentioned, it's just mentoring these students. It's just maybe giving a supportive or a kind word when they're struggling. It could be as easy as just letting them know someone's invested and they care about them and they really want to see them succeed. And oftentimes for me, it's just letting her in on that adult secret. You know, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody struggles with confidence. And at some point we've all blown it. And it's really something that I would encourage anyone looking to help out Oakland youth to do. It's easy, it's rewarding, and this quote kind of sums it up. A mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. And we have some mentors in our committee who are supporting 3, 4, 5 students at a time, and it's a lot. And we may unfortunately be getting to a point where we have more scholarship money to give than we have mentors to support these students, and that would be a real tragedy. So we really need some mentors, ladies, especially if you're interested and you want to volunteer, that would be great. We have a lack of women in there, and we're pairing with an organization who tries to do some matching in that regard. So please think about it. If you're interested in finding out more, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Mary Jiang, Pat Williams, anybody on that committee will talk to you. You could also reach out to one of our co-chairs. Stephen, unfortunately, you're the one whose email I blasted up there. So Stephen Blair, but also Fred Morse. He's great and he'd be happy to talk to you guys. So that's about it. Thank you, President Ces.
Thank you, Tristan. Tristan told that story at our last committee meeting, and it touched me quite greatly. Shows how invested that you can get with these students when you do the mentoring as well. Sure, we give them scholarship money, but it's more important the connection and the mentoring that you do with these kids when we get them. So that's our trio of women, and shows you what kind of work the Rotary does in our community. It's my effort to try to say to everybody and make sure everybody knows how rewarding it is to belong to Oakland Rotary. And this is an opportunity for us to do it in the month of the women, Women's History Month, and International Women's Day. On to my communications chair, Isaac Kos-Read. Will you do us the honor of introducing this week's Civic Thursday speaker? Thank you.
Thank you, Ces, and what an honor today to introduce the next speaker. I think everybody knows it's a very exciting time in humanity's exploration of space. And what better speaker to have, therefore, than the executive director of the Chabot Space Science Center, which, well, I won't tell you all about the history that many of you probably know, but more recently, Adam Tobin joined the Chabot Space Science Center in 2015. Bringing a background from the Exploratorium, a background in toy making, and a bachelor's degree from Brandeis University. So Oakland resident, you can't really imagine a much better person to lead this institution. And he came with great ambitions and realized that Chabot has a lot of challenges being up on the hill and hard to reach for some people. And so he's exactly the no nonsense leader that Chabot needed. And he's been working away at all these problems. And so he's got a lot to share with us about what's going on with Chabot, what's going on with space science in the world right now. And so without further ado, I'm gonna give back some time and hand over some extra time to Adam Tobin, the Executive Director of the Chabot Space and Science Center. Let's give him a warm Rotary welcome.
Yay.
Well, thanks so much, Isaac. Can everybody hear me? Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Good, okay. Thanks so much for the warm introduction. I hope my staff is listening when you said I'm no nonsense. But I think, you know, first, a big thanks to Oakland Rotary for having me. I'm honored to be here. You've supported Chabot in the past, and I know the work you do for the community. And as we get into some of the ideas that we have for Chabot and the ways in which we're hoping to serve, I think there's a lesson we can take from your playbook. Today, I'm hoping to share out a little bit of where we're at Chabot and some of our big ideas for the future. As Isaac said, it has been an exciting time for us. We are building on a long legacy in Oakland, and at the same time, we are thinking very differently and trying to have big ideas about the role of a science center, its connection to the community, and the impact that we we hope to have. And as Isaac said, that is coinciding with a rather extraordinary renaissance in space exploration. I'm not an astronomer, I will not pretend to be one, but I will share out some of what we're observing. With that, I'm going to try and share a screen here. Okay, am I live? Excellent. So maybe where I'll start very briefly is going through a little bit of the history of Chabot. Like the Oakland Rotary, we've been around a long time. So Chabot is 137 years old. It started first at Lafayette Park in Oakland. This was the very first observatory. It was a telescope donated by Anthony Chabot to the Board of Education. And we still have that telescope today. In this picture, one thing I would call out is here's the observatory, and behind that is a high school, Board of Education High School. And one of the deep legacies of Chabot's history in Oakland that we continue to this day is our relationship with the Oakland Unified School District. In 1915, we moved to the then new location in Mountain Boulevard. And you can see down in the inset here how underdeveloped it still was then. The reason for the move was, as an observatory, the growth of ambient light. So needed a place to move out of the city and have a clearer view of the sky. Zoom ahead to 2000, and that was the move up to our current location on Skyline Boulevard, which is where we are today. It is a stunning 14-acre campus. We have an 80,000 square foot building. It is really a jewel up here in the Redwoods. So I promise there won't be too many slides with lots of words. But first, I just want to take a step back and talk about the impact of science education, why we do what we do. And first, of course, as we all know, there is a deep need in a deep opportunity in STEM workforce. There's a gap, there's a need, there's a growth in STEM jobs, there are unfilled jobs, there's opportunity for, there's an opportunity to make a good living at STEM jobs. They're needed for the country. And I think you can't say this enough. We all know there is, though there has been some good movement, a long way to go in representation in the fields of the sciences. At least as important in that, I think deep in our mission, and we think about this a lot up here, is really building skills, mindset, and identity. What is the meaning of science education? Underneath it all are the skills of critical thinking, are building curiosity and imagination and wonder, opportunities for creativity. And I heard this earlier in the presentation, confidence, the idea that folks can find their own voice, they can explore, they can have a sense of empowerment and fearlessness. And in science, there's all kinds of opportunities to create, to discover your voice. And when you add all this up, this is basically creating an informed citizenry. Have the skills of critical thinking ever been more important? Has it ever been more important to be able to understand data, statistics, coming out of particular these last few years? What science teaches us is to pursue the truth, to pursue the facts, the only facts, and in that lies understanding, and in that lies power. Now, there's a kind of a jargony word here. I still don't have a better one, but what is our vision for Chabot and what is our hope for Oakland? We're rethinking what the role of a science center is. And science centers, of course, are places where you come to learn about science, experience artifacts. But what happens before you come to a science center? What happens after you come to a science center? How do you connect to learning that should be happening everywhere? So we have a vision for science in Oakland as a connected STEM learning ecosystem. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means and how we see our role within that. There are really three pillars to our vision. One is a reimagined science center. The second is what we call learning everywhere, or community-based programs throughout Oakland. And the third are actual youth development programs and academy programs that start to blur the lines between formal and informal education. If you tie all three of these together, you have learning in multiple locations, you have different depth and breadth propositions, and instead of thinking in terms of single touch or single visit or single opportunity, you start to think a little more holistically. And for me, when I came to Chabot, when I came to Chabot, being a resident of Oakland, having been in the Science Center field for the last 15 years and having worked with kids since I was a kid, there is a singular opportunity in this moment in Oakland to be a model for science education in the country. And as we get into some of the ideas that we have, we see ourselves as one part of that. And that's a very important part of our vision and what we hope to do our part to create within Oakland. So maybe first, re-envisioning a science center. I can go on and on about the history of science centers and how we're looking to evolve, but I might throw out a few thoughts. The first is there are qualities of the experience at Chabot that we are looking to evolve. We've done some of this over the last 5 years, and we have some big ideas about where we're going to go in the future. The first is see ourselves as a convening space. See ourselves not necessarily as the place where you come up here to see what we have created at Chabot or the exhibits that we create, though of course we do that, is how do we invite in the community to program our space with us? How do we invite in our partners to program our space with us? And how do we create a dynamic, constantly evolving experience that goes beyond waiting to see what new exhibit we might create? So what you see here was an example from our First Fridays program, which we launched a few years back, where basically we threw open our doors, we opened our, invited in our partners, both from Oakland, from professional audiences, from NASA, as you can see here, to create a constantly evolving dynamic experience. And we have a deep partnership with NASA, which I will come back to also. But here you see how it's a level of engagement, human to human and engagement. And I'm really happy to say that once we opened up our doors in this way, we were getting 1,000 people a night for these programs on average. We also started creating festivals up here, day-long or weekend-long festivals. This was from a Tinkerfest where we invited our visitors to create a Rube Goldberg machine over the course of an afternoon, a chain reaction. And we invited once again community members to program our space with us. And the level of interaction that you have, even though we have a lot of people up here, we find ways of creating intimate moments for our visitors to start actually creating themselves, to start tinkering themselves and not necessarily just experience an exhibit. This from a Tinkerfest is one of my favorite pictures. We did a car take apart, where we actually had our visitors take apart a car, and they took apart this car. And these two kids carrying off the bumper, I remember them. They were there for about 3 hours, just inside that car, taking apart bumper to bumper. This was from a Bubble Fest that we did. We had a whole day dedicated to bubbles and the science of bubbles, and it was just an awful lot of fun. One of the other aspects of our Science Center, and Chabot does this, I think, particularly well, are highly facilitated activities. And the facilitation is coming from a number of interesting places. Yes, of course, our staff, and yes, of course, our incredible core of volunteers. Also, in addition to that, we invite in scientists from the labs. We have deep connection to NASA, Lawrence Livermore, JPL. We also have connections to STEM-based institutions all around us. So invite in practicing scientists. And this, my particular favorite and a deep interest of ours is high schoolers and middle schoolers as educators. So this idea that we have deep youth development programs, opportunities for kids to educate other kids, very powerful, and we'll come back to that in the context of our academy programs. Another example of on-site facilitation, and again, this is the kind of teaching and learning environment that we want to create that you can really only do with this kind of human touch. Yes, we're a space and science center. Yes, we're focused on astronomy. Another pillar of our vision going forward is making current science visible. And right now, there is a space renaissance underway that is unlike anything really ever, you could say since the 60s in the Apollo missions. But what's happening right now is there's a pace of discovery, there's a level of participation, there's a level of inclusion that is growing and growing. And it's amazing. And it's so inspirational, and it just opens your mind to all kinds of possibilities. So yes, we have on our floor opportunities to learn about what's going on in space, what's going on in space science, and we're trying to do it in a way that once again is engaging directly with real content. Concrete example, we created a mission control on our floor that is drawing real-time data from NASA. What's happening with the probes that are out there, what's happening with content, and our visitors have a chance to interact with that. I promised I would talk a little bit about this. I hopefully don't get over my skis as a non-astronomer. But again, in this space renaissance that's happening right now, the number of launches has gone up exponentially. The level of discovery has gone up exponentially. This is the Artemis program, NASA's Artemis program, where we're going back to the moon and then to Mars. And one of the most exciting things about this program is who's going, right? So if you look at the list here, this is not exactly what it looked like during Apollo. You might remember an awful lot of speaking directly white men, and everyone in mission control was wearing those white cutoff t-shirts with the little black ties, right? So it's a different audience now, and it's a different group of astronauts, and the first woman on the moon will be part of the Artemis program. The space renaissance is also wider than just the government agencies now. It's deep participation from the commercial sector. This is SpaceX Dragon capsule docking with the International Space Station. So there's a lot of interesting things going on that broaden the opportunities for participation, for learning, and of course for careers. It's also changed in scale. This is a CubeSat. It's about yay big with your hands, and local company Planet Labs are putting up hundreds of these, and they're providing all kinds of interesting insight, not just looking up, but looking down as we understand our own planet and try and tackle things like climate change. And what's really interesting about this is the scale of this makes it accessible for kids to be putting things into space. And that's happening right now. So, you know, one of the last things I would say about the current renaissance in space is that unlike in the 60s in Apollo, where you watched it on TV, that's how you participated, now it is truly participatory in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of levels. And for us as an educational institution, and we think about how we provide not just inspiration and curiosity on behalf of our kids, but toeholds and tangible opportunities to engage and maybe even find themselves in STEM-related careers, the fact that you can participate in these ways so early creates, I think, tangible pathways. This, of course, everybody watched, I'm sure. This is the view from Mars of the new Pathfinder rover that just landed, where we're listening to Mars and soon going to be flying on Mars. I mean, how cool is that? A brief nod to the pandemic, which has been challenging for us, like all cultural institutions. Challenging is not a strong enough word, but we took this again as an opportunity to deepen our vision for the future and find new ways of impact while we were closed. So we went online. We put cameras on our telescopes, and we started engaging NASA scientists in our programs. This was the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that we broadcast. And it really ain't about the numbers, but I'm really happy to say that this got 216,000 views. And since we've been online, we've had 500,000 views online. This is a deeper level of access. This is a deeper level of inclusion because you do not have to come up the hill. We're big fans of looking through the telescope with the naked eye, but here's an opportunity to have access to the content wherever you are. And lastly, we, for the Perseverance landing, we again partnered with our friends from NASA, and we broadcast it live. And this is so cool. These two women work at NASA Ames, these two young women, they worked on the helicopter that's going to be the first flight, human-created flight on another planet. That has never happened before. And so they spoke as part of our program, inspiring young girls everywhere with the possibility that they can be engaged in programs like this. So that's, you can tell I'm going quickly, but that's some of our thinking about our on-site programs and where they're going. our offsite programs, Learning Everywhere. Learning is happening everywhere. And for us as a science center to think that everything has to happen here is not forward-looking thinking. And how do we partner with Oakland? How do we work within the community with the community? We are doing away with a word that we don't say anymore, and that word is outreach. That is traditionally how science centers and other institutions have thought about this level of engagement. We take what we do, we come in, we do something, and we do it once. We are thinking more deeply in terms of ongoing learning programs, working closely with community-based organizations, such that there is ongoing STEM learning, deeper infrastructure, and even formative involvement in what the programs are. And I think that's particularly important. I don't think I need to say this, but from a diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're not going to pretend to know what we don't know. And this is our hope to, when we start talking about a STEM learning ecosystem, that it's not just us, that it is something that begins to be woven into the fabric of Oakland. And we come in with humility, knowing that it's already happening in all kinds of places. How might we play a role as a convener and start helping to connect the dots, and then bring all of the resources that we have to bear, all of the connections that we have to bear, all the partners that we have to bear into these programs. So we have been piloting already. The first pilot that we did was a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Oakland, where we came in and it's not just doing a single workshop, we did 50 workshops over the course of the school year. And these 50 workshops were created in partnership with Boys and Girls Club staff. They were co-facilitated with our staff and Boys and Girls Club staff. And they provided an opportunity for a level of deep engagement, as you can see in some of these pictures, unlike what outreach would be, where we show up for an hour and then we go away again. So there were, it was really extraordinary. And in this work, it was just part one of the partnership. So as we were doing the work in the Boys and Girls Club, we would be in the after school programs. Then we would do, this is a great picture, they were doing launches and landings. Then we would have family science nights at the Boys and Girls Club. So the kids who've been working during the day and after school programs would then have an opportunity with parents, with guardians, with other members of the community to have a family science night in the evening. And these were just magical. Then, it isn't in the slides, we would invite up the Boys and Girls Club kids up to Chabot. So the first trip up the hill to our location, this is our theory of action and we're still working on it, but there's already a newfound sense of inclusion and relevance prior to coming up the hill, and then hopefully a differential sense of belonging. Before we get into the academy, I'm happy to say this was right before the pandemic, which I'm not happy to say, is we then received, after that initial work, a federal grant where our aspirations and our hope is now we engage other CBOs and members of the community across Oakland. That includes rec centers, libraries, which we already work with, after-school programs in schools, places of worship, and places where the community gathers in order to have opportunities for connected STEM across Oakland. So our academy programs. Chabot has been, not a lot of folks know this, but for the last 20 years has had rather extraordinary youth development programs in high school and middle school. We are looking to further deepen that. We're looking to create programs that, like I said before, not only provide depth of experience, these multi-year programs that teach the principles of science, get kids lit up about science, educate kids to be educators. And we've been successful with the programs in STEM workforce development placement. We're now radically expanding that. And we're now thinking about programs where kids are going to school at Chabot part-time, week-long intersessions, semester-long programs, and this all connects, and I'll come back to that in a moment. So these programs, these are our classrooms up at Chabot where there's the principles of science, deep content. Well, you can see, you know, it's high schoolers, so you can see the nutrition on the table up there, but that's fueling science learning, so hopefully that's okay. But it's fun. And there's a real sense of ownership and participation on these kids. They own Chabot at least as much as we do. And the content that they get to get their hands on is real. And their classrooms, you just saw them inside labs and on our floor. This is what a classroom up at Chabot looks like. And again, the kids are facilitating other kids. What's the best way to know if you know something or have learned something or are passionate about it? Is you teach it. And then you get a depth and a breadth proposition where there's a core group that are going way deep in the science, and then they're paying that forward more broadly into our audiences. One thing I'm very excited about is having kids, students, create our on-floor experience, not just facilitate the activities we create, but create it itself. So kids creating the exhibits on our floor, this is a periodic table where in each cubby hole, they wanted to put an actual element from the periodic table. Now, those are programs that we've had going for a while that we're starting to deepen. As I talk big about our future, we also modeled school at Chabot. Right before the pandemic, we ran a model where 100 middle schoolers from the district went to school at Chabot 1 day a week for the better part of the school year. Again, this was their classroom with us nestled up here in the redwoods. And then we took the idea of creating on-floor exhibits to a deeper extreme where we opened up our shop, we opened up our facilities. The students then not only learned the principles of science, but they created an idea. They pitched it to our team. They pitched it to our Spark Tank, which were scientists and educators, both on our team and from outside. And then they fabricated it. They put together a bill of materials. And then this day was truly magical. Then we invited up the K-5 students, and the middle schoolers facilitated learning experiences for the day as the buses came up, and they were the ones leading the field trip experience across the day. And it was just really something. So our thinking going forward, if you tie all of this together, is you have a science center up here as a campus, as a hub in that connected learning ecosystem that is creating and connecting with experiences throughout Oakland that then connects to experiences at Chabot. And in the midst of all that, we are creating tangible science workforce opportunities that in the end, not only educates the kids of Oakland, provides opportunity for ownership in our experiences, but sets the stage for the informed citizenry that we know we can and should be. And we hope, our big vision is that this is something that we're all going to create together. So our call to action is, A, please join us for our virtual programs while we're closed every Saturday night. We are building a coalition right now that starts to build off all this work we've done. And we are interested in making connections to other community-based organizations that are interested in working with us, teaching us, learning with us, and ensuring that the programs we create together are for all of Oakland. And the last thing I will say, which unfortunately is a tease, because I cannot share it completely yet, but we are about a month away from a significant announcement of a new partnership. You've heard me talk about NASA a lot, but we are building a rather extraordinary opportunity. I cannot wait to tell you all about it in partnership with NASA Ames. So please stay tuned because when we come back from this pandemic, we're going to come back strong. And we're looking forward to working with you all and living up to the promise of what this place can be for Oakland. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Mike. Adam, I really appreciate that. It's a great, wonderful talk. I just put in the chat, I love the work with OUSD and the classrooms up there. That's really beautiful. Susie, I believe we have a few questions for Adam.
We do, President Ces. So the first question comes from Jack McAvoy. And Jack wants to know, now that the bulk of space exploration seems to be done with private money, what do you think the future of space exploration in the future looks like?
Wow. So the first thing I have to give the caveat again is I'm not an astronomer, but having talked with a lot of folks at NASA and having talked with a lot of folks in commercial space exploration, neither of them is going away. They're working together. I think of a conversation, there was a great fireside chat we had up here with astronaut Yvonne Kagel from NASA, having been in NASA a long time, that one is not replacing the other. There's actually a deep role for each to play. I believe this is true. And it's been my experience as I watch the Renaissance continue to unfold. I do not hope, but I do not think this is the privatization of space. This is just the marshaling of a lot of different kinds of resources, ideas, entrepreneurship, and collaboration, such that in the end, it really, from my perspective, just looks like deeper opportunity. I really believe that.
Thank you. Isaac Kos-Read's question is, when are you going to bring back those awesome Fridays at Chabot? You have outdoor space. Might that be leveraged in the new pandemic paradigm? And why haven't we set up an actual full-time school at Chabot, like a real Space and Science Academy, a la what OSA is for the arts?
Oh boy. Gosh, I want to answer all those questions. So we can't wait to get back to First Fridays either. We're obviously watching the pandemic closely. We want to come back as soon as we can. And yes, we think we start outdoor first. The other question, the idea of a school up here at Chabot, we absolutely adore. We have talked about a school up here at Chabot. And our approach right now is to say we can take a rotational strategy like we did with that pilot program and like we're starting to do with intersession programs. That will out of the gate help us build the program. We'll learn a lot. And the numbers that we're bandying about are 3,000 middle schoolers coming through a year in deep dive educational programs that could be as long as a full semester. So we might be able to get a depth proposition and a breadth proposition in there by not necessarily having a full-on school up here, but by weaving school programs through. That said, at some point, it would be simply amazing to have that Space and Science Academy up here that is indeed feeding NASA and the major labs through internship programs and workforce development.
President Sass, I think Marilyn Harriman has her hand up. Can she ask a question
Go
directly?
right ahead. Marilyn,
Gonna
unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. I am so excited to see you here, Adam. It just makes my heart happy. Can you tell us anything about the new program for science teachers enrichment program, the STEP program that's coming? And also about the Carol Kwan, our former superintendent who's left us this year, who's been very involved with Chabot, and she did a lot. I was head of counseling. I've been retired for 20 years, but Margaret Hobbin keeps me involved, and I'm watching. I'm still part of Rotary. I'm here because of you, Adam, to tell you the truth today. But I really want the Rotary people to know, this is just incredible. What Carol Kwan has done, and there is a fund, right?
Yes, there
For
is.
her right now. And I think a lot of people don't know about this. And the STEP program, which is going to help our science teachers, is really going to be very exciting. And I'm not sure what you can talk about it now, but if you could, I would just so love that, hear that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Marilyn. First, we're honored to be honoring Carol Kwan's legacy. And she cared very deeply about science education and very deeply about teacher professional development. And if you really got me going, I would talk for a good hour and a half, but I promise not to do that. As part of the Academy initiative, teacher professional development is a big part of that. Part of our vision for what it means to have these learning programs up at Chabot is in situ teacher development. Imagine students from the district coming up to Chabot for deep dive educational programs, while simultaneously teachers are getting professional development in science education. And more importantly, this is the STEP program. And this was Margaret's brainchild, and a brilliant one at that, I may say, thanks to Margaret, is it's not just teacher professional development, it's teacher enrichment. Teachers need to be lit up, just like students, just like all of us. And there's such a need not only to get teachers into the STEM field, but keep them as science teachers. It's a deep, deep need. So how do we nourish the teachers in addition to providing pedagogy and current science and ways of bringing inquiry-based learning into the classroom? So Margaret's insight and what we're building through this STEP program is a teacher PD and enrichment program. We've already started some piloting. We're starting to listen to teachers and convene, and that will be part of our academy program going forward. So thank you for that, Marilyn. We're excited to be doing it.
Adam, we have one more question that says here, this is just so exciting, your vision for the future. How are you funding these activities, and how much relies on private philanthropy?
Well, ain't that the $1 million question? So we're very fortunate in that we have some strong funders behind us. And I'm really happy to say that A, there's been a lot of love in the community and support for Chabot over the years. B, I'm really humbled and proud to say that I think there's a genuine sense that there's a moment right now, and some of the work we've been doing over these last years has created opportunity for Chabot to live up to its promise and live up to its promise more broadly for Oakland, and that has created support. Yes, we need private philanthropy. We do have some government support, but that's part of my job, is to be out there finding the support that we need to make this work. So we have support, we need support, but that's the nature of our world.
Thank you so much, Adam. We'll be in touch with you to see what Rotary can do for you as well. This year, our club is making homelessness crisis in Oakland a priority. And to that end, and as our gift to you for being our speaker for today, in your honor, we are making a donation to support our unhoused residents in Oakland. Additionally, we would like to give you our centennial book, which documents 100 years of service and friendship in the third oldest club in the Rotary world. Again, thank you, Adam, for being our speaker for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Big loud applause. However we do it like that or like this. Rotarian Allison Bliss, will you tell us about our speaker for next Civic Thursday meeting?
Sure, President Seth. When we all like to know what the future will bring, well, our next speaker is a highly successful technology entrepreneur and futurist, Michael Chong. His presentation will share innovative trends and how they'll influence our future on resilience, teamwork, leadership, and culture. His motto is, I help you catch the next wave before it catches you. Join us next week.
Thank you. I'd like to just say thank you, Kymberly, for the thought for today, that informative message on Women's History Month. And thank you, Tristan, for the message on Cerrone and Lena. We need mentors. Join the committee. Please join this committee. And thank you, Shannon, for that inspiring message on membership and reminding us to bring a friend and show them what it means for service above self at Rotary. Jesse, before I wrap up this meeting, do we have any more bell ringers?
We have 10 bell ringers today.
Oh.
We have Lou Regali ran the bell for Women's Month. Shannon Hackley rang the bell for Women's Month. Jack McAvoy rang the bell for Shannon. We had a Zoom user who needs to identify themselves to me, rang the bell for Tristan and her Cerrone Lena talk. Stephen Blair rang the bell for your trio of women that showed leadership to today's meetings. Sadie Gutierrez rang the bell for the women that spoke today. Kymberly Miller rang the bell for Adam and his vision of Chabot, and you rang the bell 3 times for each one of your wonderful Rotary women leaders that talked at the meeting today.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to end this meeting, as we always do. And that's the way it went at the 5,330th club meeting on March the 4th, 2021 at Oakland Rotary number 3, the 3rd oldest Rotary club in the world. Everyone remember, Rotary opens opportunities for service above self. And for now, this meeting of the Rotary Club of Oakland is adjourned.